Hello, divine creations, divine marvels, children of God. Thank you so much to everyone joining in this video, everyone watching and recording. Wow, we're 9 seconds in, and including me and my friend Rachel on the telephone, we've got 7 people here on this gathering. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, here in California, it's still morning time. It's the beginning of the day. And I like to start off each day asking myself, what am I doing? Not just what are my activities today, but what's life all in essence, what is life all about? What are we doing here? Us, these eternal, immortal spirits in this body, on this earth. What's up? Why am I here? What to do? And the answers I've come to based on the teachings of Bruno Groening is that I am here in a body on this earth, me, an immortal soul, to learn and grow, to specifically free myself from what Bruno Groening called Bosse, German, which means evil, nastiness, viciousness, this energy and consciousness that's ugh, very yucky. So I'm here on this earth to free myself from that and to grow and learn spiritually. And what's the purpose of freeing myself from evil, of growing and learning so that I can help others? Bruno Groening did not mince words about evil. There's many spiritual teachers and teachings that don't like to talk about evil, that don't like to talk about suffering. Bruno Groening was very adamant that here on this earth, there's a lot of evil and it's nasty and it's vicious. And he would go so far as to say what this work is all about. He said, is to free the purely divine soul from Satan's claws. He didn't mince around. He didn't joke around with this thing called evil. He said it was nasty and vicious and seeking to actually destroy the earth. The good news is, he said that activity has been contained, that the earth is safe. And each of us, unless there's anyone watching today who's a perfect master, and I hope you are. I hope everyone here is a perfect master and can start teaching and helping me. And if you're not, if you're like me, if you still have some level of association with evil based on past misdeeds and misthoughts, and it's of the utmost importance that we free ourselves. Bruno said, man is not free. He's literally becomes a servant of evil. And Bruno said is in a hypnotic state, that evil has literally put us in a hypnotic state and disconnected us from God, from ourselves, and from nature. So let's make good use of time in this day to really free ourselves. And not just, Bruno said it's very important to free yourself first. And let's be really clear why we want to free ourselves. Not first and foremost because evil's nasty. Bruno would use words like slime and muck and ugh. And so that we can help others. So Bruno gave us a very simple teachings, not always easy, but very simple and a very direct way to receive grace to help us with this. He called it Einstellen, a German word meaning tuning in, attune, focus, take in, position oneself upright, alignment. And it's that last word that I'm really resonating with a lot today, alignment, aligning ourselves with God. So to do this, it's very simple. Please sit with your legs uncrossed, feet flat on the floor, hands on your legs, palms facing upwards, back in an upright position, not slouched and hopefully not leaning against your chair. If you need to, that's okay to start with, but not stiff either, in a relaxed upright position. And then please close your eyes and hand over all Burries. Burdens plus worries equals burries. And over all burdens, all worries, all challenges, life situations, to Bruno Groening or to God or to the universe, life. That doesn't mean we won't contemplate what a good action is, but we definitely don't want to dwell on them. And this act of handing over is an act of entrusting. So, handing over all situations of disharmony, and then think of something that makes you smile. Easy one are our animal friends, or an infant, or a scene in nature. And then observe your body, having the will, the intention to take in good energy. Tuning our soul, which Bruno likened to an antenna, attuning it, aligning it with God to receive the divine transmission through observing your body. Taking in the good, having the will to be connected to God, to be healthy, to be free of evil. Noticing what you feel, So here's a quote from Bruno Groening. This is from Powers of the Spirit, page 193. So a little bit before Bruno Groening left his body, he wrote a letter to the friends, and on the front of it was an illustration of um, a black cross on a red background. And Lilo, one of his friends, was a little surprised and a little saddened and concerned by the little. She was feeling sad this. She sensed it was an ominous cover, and people who knew Bruno well knew that his health was um, not strong at this point. And then Bruno said to her, I chose the illustration myself. I don't allow my wife to give me advice on that, or I didn't allow my wife to give me any advice on that. This is all willed by God and has its own validity. And you, Lilo, must not take up the bad, that is, sorrow, since that weakens you. One must learn to trust what God has ordained as such. It is always the right thing. So easy to understand, not so easy to practice, not taking up sorrow. And yet, Bruno gives us the simple antidote to sorrow, which is to trust in God. In different ways, and here's one more, Bruno Groening has pointed out that everything that happens here on this earth, God has a part in. That everything that happens here on this earth is part of a plan that's much bigger than we can understand and is always, always for our learning. And I hear it said often in a lot of spiritual circles today. What's for the highest? And so the solution to sorrow is first of all recognizing that sorrow weakens us, and second of all, recognition that everything that occurs is, you could say, God's will, is for our highest good, serves learning, serves God, serves a higher plan. So let's spend a little time reflecting on this. I'll read it again. And you, Lilo, must not take up the bad, that is, sorrow. That weakens you. One must learn to trust what God has ordained as such. It is always the right thing. And Bruno said the same thing about worry, that worry, he said, is the disease of all people. And the antidote is trusting in God. So, with every thought that comes, that's a sorrowful thought, every thought that comes that's a fearful thought, we need to recognize it for what it is, a lack of trust in God. So that's not to say and this actually, before we tune in a little bit, this is if I had one question for Bruno Groening, it might be, yes, Bruno, suffering comes from not trusting God, but what about pain? What if, I'm saying goodbye to a friend, or isn't a little sadness or a little disappointment natural? And I would be very curious to hear his answer. But obviously, what he's pointing out is that big pain and suffering, such as sorrow, such as fear, such as worry, are not natural and actually disconnect us from God. So let's spend a little time taking in this good energy, reflecting on this. Once again, trust being the answer, God being the answer, and our trusting in God connects us to that answer. Noticing what we feel, taking on faith and trust. mindful of each thought. Is it a thought based in truth and faith or in distortion and fear? Taking in the good. Now, you know, one of the things Bruno warned us about is following other people. You know, we live in a world in which people are constantly telling us what to do. Sometimes bosses, sometimes parents. We grew up receiving orders from parents and teachers. And yet, Bruno Groening said that following people is abandoning God. That this can be it's a very subtle subject. But if we really reflect on if someone's not guided by the good and they're giving us an order and we follow it, then in essence what we're doing is following evil. And it's a delicate subject because people have jobs and families and children, and so I'm not here to give anyone specific advice on how to apply it. That's something that you need to work out between you and God in each situation. And the principle is very sound though, that we need to follow God, not fear, not evil, not other people. And Bruno Groening exemplified exemplified that. Even as a child, his parents would tell him to do something, and if it didn't feel right, he wouldn't do it, or he would do what felt right. He would get beaten for it, and he would still just do what felt right to him, felt right to his what he would call his natural human instinct, the part of us that knows what's good. And in human terms, people often say, "Well, you have to do this," or "You must do that," or "You absolutely shouldn't." Blah blah blah. Those words like that, people even when people don't mean to, they're basically giving a lot of orders. Um, but here's what Bruno Groening said. He said, "We have to follow the good that we all have to follow. We must do that. Everyone owes it to himself." So, you know, I read a long time ago that human beings have this instinct to follow. And the question is, how are we going to apply this instinct? Are we going to, follow the latest fashions? Are we going to follow the opinions of friends or parents, coworkers, society? Are we going to strive to follow goodness, harmony, the way I'm starting to feel it and kind of see it, as if there is um, this energy that's all around us that is goodness, that is harmony, and gave birth to all of this, and is calling each one of us to connect to it. And then from that place of connection, to being led and guided and to do good here in creation. Bruno spoke of the divine transmission, the divine signal. And he was a master linguist. He would make all sorts of puns. And he played with the German language. Um, and so I don't think he used the word. The German word was Sendung, transmission, broadcast. I don't think he used that word lightly, as if almost like there's just ongoing instructions. and within us, something which already knows. So let's reflect on all this. What is it? That's the metaphor that works for me, that there's this kind of like the Force from Star Wars, there's this all pervasive energy field that is good and that created all this and wants to guide us into harmony with everything. That's sort of the metaphor that works for me. See, what does it mean to you to follow the good? And do keep in mind when Bruno Groening said the good, das, I think he would say, he would say like die Guten or um, zum Guten, like trust, vertruum zum Guten, meaning trust or faith in the good. When he was, that was one of his ways of referring to God, to the Supreme. But that the metaphor I've come up with works for me, and come up with your own. So let's observe our bodies, taking in the good, noticing what we feel. Asking ourselves, how do we follow the good? How do we align ourselves with good? Hmm. Well, I'm very delighted and honored to. I'm just so happy right now. Happy to be doing this. There's currently now 11 of us spread all around the world, taking in this good energy, reflecting on this is just my opinion, and one of, if not the highest expressions of the truth. Not my words, but Bruno's words. We're taking in this energy. We're reflecting on this very, what I can, again, pure, what I see as pure spiritual truth. And it just brings me joy. So let's spend a minute and really ask for anyone that we have some concern about, Again, any situations that we have some concern or worry, let's hand those over. Let's step into faith that peace will prevail on this earth. Let's want the good. And let's spend the day asking, God, how can I serve thee? Goodness that's all around me and in me. How can I be helpful today? Please guide me. It's a beautiful prayer and intention to take all throughout our day. I'd like to thank everyone for dropping by, those who were live and those watching this video. And I have a friend who I called him the other day and I said, "Good morning." And he said, "God morning." And now we joke around and say, "Have a God day." So I wish everyone here to have a God day, a God filled day of communion and connection with God, and then sharing that. And, we all have our gifts to share. It can be as small as a smile, it can be as big as, you know, apologizing to someone, the big rainbow. Yeah, Roswitha said, I remember to my surprise Bruno saying about grief something like, there can be a justification for feeling it for some time. Yeah, Roswitha, if you can find that, I'm very curious because there were definitely instances where Bruno, was told people, grieving is not um, grieving weakens, but I kind of have this sense that, and maybe I read it and vaguely remember. So if anyone out there and has knows about that quote, and I'll ask around. Um, Thank you for pointing it out. It's a topic I have a question on myself. Thank you, Heather, and thanks for bringing that up, Ross. Have a beautiful day, divine creations, divine marvels, children of God. Mwah!